Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. We're here on the last day of the Congress in the morning hours. Maybe the interest might have dwindled a bit. As Mr. Chairperson put it, non-compliance is a serious problem in psychiatry, and when we talk about compliance, it almost has a military ring to it, obedience, and but we're here to share our knowledge, and that was the point of this Congress, to understand the human brain. In compliance, the patient is passive mode, in an obedient state, and doing what is told to do, and then we are questioning them when they come back. Have you taken your drugs? How did you take it? It's as if scolding, and this is not very effective apparently, and has to be replaced with a concept where the patient assumes more responsibility. The patient is more motivated, and the drug is communicated better to the patient in terms of its side effects, advantages, or as to the importance of sleep, and how can the patient or the relatives, the family, cope with side effects. So the patient and the family, they all take a more active role. This is called adherence. It has increased compliance up to a certain extent, but still psychiatry is doing very poorly in terms of compliance, especially the bipolar group. So compliance in treatment and adherence we can see in different forms. As you can see here, there is a non-adherent patient group. They never use the drug, and the minute they're out of the hospital, they stop taking it, and then they present back as a recurrence. And another group is partial adherence group. Some meds are taken often erratically, and there is another final group which is satisfactory adherence group, and they are fully compliant. Like I explained a minute ago, we have to use antidepressants, antipsychotics, non-psychiatric. We don't see such low compliance in the non-psychiatric drug group. They seem to be doing better. This was made evident with the renowned Katie study, which showed that antipsychotics are poorly used, and this manifested at 84% in quetiapine, dropping out in the 18th month, and this was mainly associated with an inability to compensate the side effects, and this was kind of an awakening, causing us to ask if the drugs are not being used properly. And it was mentioned yesterday as well that we don't have a consistency between patient reports and the reality, and we know that the patients are indeed using the meds with very low rates, even in those more planned programs. There was a study in 52 states of United States with around 1,400 patients, and quetiapine ranked first in this study by 84% in terms of non-compliance. And this is another graph to show the same finding. Quetiapine is the worst. In that case, the company producing quetiapine made an attack, saying our drug was used in low doses, and they did the coffee trial involving 3 atypical antipsychotics, and the results showed that the non-compliance between these 3 meds were similar, and the UFEST trial was done by Khan and et al., and it was around 500 first episode patients, and since there was no approval by FDA, amisulprid was usually not included in these trials, but it was included in this one. Haloperidol represented first generation antipsychotics, and the highest number of discontinuation was in haloperidol, and we see that olanzapine was doing the best in terms of compliance and adherence to the treatment on the part of the patients. And there is the early stage and chronic patients problem. As you know, with lengthened treatment, dropout rates are increasing, and by average, other than 39%, which had good adherence, the patients are discontinuing their drugs, and of course it's due to a lack of insight by the patients and some other more practical reasons. And as you see here again, in the first 1-year follow-ups from an atypical antipsychotics point of view, the picture is not very bright. And haloperidol was 72% dropout, but in this study it's still not very bright. 1/3 of the patients discontinued, and especially in clozapine, there are very serious side effects, and unless they are managed well, the patient cannot continue. And in haloperidol as well, the patient discontinues because of weight gain. Amisulprid also causes an increase in prolactin, and this kind of side effects get the patient to discontinue in a very short time. A lack of insight on the part of the patients, that's the main challenge for this group. In almost 1/4 of the patients, there is not full insight, and the patients don't believe that they are sick, so they will not be motivated to take the meds. And we see here at different ratios, we see adherence issues varying between 39 to 41%. This data coming from different studies. In the comparisons between first and second generation, we do not see any significantly meaning difference, and we know that this picture may be different based on dose, and haloperidol dose was not below 15 milligram, and then later it turned out to be very high, so there was a bias against haloperidol, or a positive bias in favor of other drugs. That's what we understood. And with Prevelance, this became even more evident in the KT study, and we learned that there was not any significant difference between these drugs, and that was a difference in terms of treatment compliance in between the first and second generation antipsychotics. So also we saw the emergence of even more serious side effects, so the physicians tried to keep their distance, and therefore they switched to new antipsychotics which have lower side effects. And as a result of that, we understood that the better the compliance was, the less the hospitalization rates, and this is a problem because with increased non-compliance, hospitalization is increasing. In conclusion, compliance on the part of the patients is of critical importance, and as you can see here, if a person has not used the med, it makes no sense, and you have to make them use the meds, convince them, and if there is non-compliance, there will be exacerbations, hospitalizations, the patient will be deteriorated, and the brain functions will be impaired, and giving rise to more serious problems. Thank you very much for your patience.